Every year, millions of people over 60 follow the exact same protocol. They take the calcium supplement. They do the right exercises. They eat the dairy. They follow the advice on the pamphlet. And every year, orthopedic wards keep filling up. Hip fractures, compression fractures in the spine, wrists that snap from what should have been a minor fall. Here is what nobody is telling you clearly enough. The standard calcium and dairy model of bone health was built on mid-20th century science. And the molecular biology of the last 2 decades has completely rewritten what we know about how bone actually regenerates, mineralizes, and ages. Bone is not a static structure. It is living tissue. It turns over constantly. It requires not one nutrient, but an entire orchestra of compounds working simultaneously, many of which you will never find in a standard supplement bottle. The plants in this video are not folk remedies passed down from grandmothers who didn't know better. Several of them have been evaluated in peer-reviewed randomized controlled trials at major research institutions. They operate through specific documented biochemical pathways that your standard bone health protocol is almost certainly missing entirely. This video is not here to replace your doctor. It is here to make you a more informed patient. The people who walk into their next appointment already knowing what osteocalcin is, already knowing what K2 does to arterial calcium, those are the people who get better outcomes. 7 plants. Real science. Starting now. Quick pause. This channel is built on the information that should have been obvious but somehow never was. In gardening, in history, in the things we consume every day. If that's your kind of content, subscribe. We're pushing toward 1,000 subscribers before the month ends, and every person who joins makes the next video possible. Where are you watching from? And which of these have you actually tried? Drop it below. I read everything. Before we get into the list, you need to understand one thing, because without it, none of what follows will land the way it should. The conventional bone health model is not wrong. Calcium matters. Vitamin D matters. Weight-bearing exercise matters. But the model is radically incomplete. It focuses almost entirely on calcium input and almost nothing on calcium direction, on what happens to the calcium once it is in your bloodstream. Here is the problem nobody explains. Calcium absorbed without the cofactors to direct it into bone tissue does not simply disappear. Research from the past 15 years has linked undirected calcium to arterial calcification, calcium depositing in places it absolutely should not be. This is not fringe science. This is published cardiology. The plants on this list work at a different layer. They supply the cofactors, the secondary compounds, the anti-inflammatory signals, and the cellular activators that complete the picture mainstream advice leaves blank. Some stimulate osteoblasts, the cells that actually build new bone. Some suppress osteoclasts, the cells that break it down. Some do both. Think of what follows not as a supplement list. Think of it as the missing chapters of a manual you were handed 30 years ago. Item 1 Moringa, the complete foundation. Plant number 1 Moringa. The complete foundation. Most people encounter Moringa as a green powder on a health food shelf and move on. That is a significant oversight. Gram for gram, dried Moringa leaf contains roughly 4 times the calcium found in whole milk, alongside magnesium, phosphorus, zinc, and vitamin K1. Essentially every mineral your bone matrix requires to function, compressed into one source. The contrast with the supplement model is stark. A standard calcium tablet gives you one nutrient in one form. Moringa delivers a matrix of co-occurring minerals the way your bone tissue actually evolved to receive them, from whole food, with the synergistic compounds that facilitate absorption already present. A 2023 study published in Frontiers in Nutrition examined Moringa's effect on bone mineral density markers in postmenopausal women. Researchers documented measurable changes in osteocalcin, a key protein synthesized by osteoblasts during new bone formation, within the intervention group at 12 weeks. Practically, 1 teaspoon of Moringa powder stirred into warm broth or blended into a morning smoothie delivers a meaningful dose without requiring any significant dietary restructuring. This is not a dramatic intervention. It is a quiet, consistent one. And in bone health, consistency wins. Item 2, Horsetail, the overlooked giant. Plant number 2, Horsetail, the overlooked giant. If you have not heard of it, you are not alone. Horsetail, Equisetum arvense, is one of the oldest plant species on Earth, and it is almost entirely absent from mainstream bone health conversations. That absence is becoming harder to justify scientifically. Horsetail is the richest botanical source of orthosilicic acid, the bioavailable form of silicon. Silicon's role in bone architecture remained underappreciated for decades, largely because it doesn't show up on standard bone density scans the way calcium does. But the research tells a different story. A 2016 review published in the Journal of Nutrition, Health and Aging summarized extensive evidence showing silicon's role in collagen synthesis, specifically in the cross-linking of collagen fibers that give bone its tensile strength. Bone density without tensile strength is brittle density. The two are not the same thing. This is the part of bone health the calcium conversation consistently skips. A bone that is dense but poorly structured fractures just as readily as one that is thin. Collagen is the structural scaffold. Silicon supports that scaffold. Horsetail is widely available as a tea or capsule supplement. 2 to 3 cups of horsetail tea weekly represents a simple, low-friction entry point. Item 3. Stinging nettle, the protector. Plant number 3. Stinging nettle, the protector. The name creates an instinctive hesitation. Push past it. Cooked or dried nettle is completely benign, and its nutritional profile is extraordinary by any rigorous measure. High in calcium, magnesium, vitamin K, boron, and silica, alongside a class of compounds that differentiate it from every item on this list so far. Nettle contains potent anti-inflammatory flavonoids, including quercetin and camphorol. This matters specifically for bone because chronic low-grade inflammation is now recognized as a primary driver of accelerated bone loss in older adults. Inflammatory cytokines, particularly TNF-alpha and interleukin-6, directly activate osteoclast activity, meaning systemic inflammation functionally accelerates the breakdown of bone tissue. A 2021 study in Phytomedicine documented nettle extract's capacity to downregulate these exact cytokines in vitro bone cell environments. The mechanism is real and documented. What makes nettle particularly practical is its culinary versatility. Blanched, it loses its sting entirely and cooks like spinach. It integrates into soups, stews, and omelets without altering flavor substantially. Nettle tea is another low-effort route. You are not adopting an exotic protocol. You are adding a dark leafy green with a specific anti-inflammatory mechanism that your skeleton will register. Item 4. Sage, the bioavailable king. Plant number 4. Sage, the bioavailable king. Sage lives in most kitchens as a rarely used herb, reserved for Thanksgiving stuffing, and then ignored for 11 months. That is one of the more nutritionally wasteful habits in the modern kitchen, particularly for anyone concerned with bone health. Here is why sage earns this position on the list. It contains ursolic acid, a pentacyclic triterpenoid compound that researchers have identified as a direct stimulator of osteoblast differentiation, the process by which stem cells commit to becoming bone-building cells. You are not just feeding existing bone. You are potentially influencing the pipeline that creates the cells responsible for building new bone. A 2020 study in Molecules examined ursolic acid's interaction with the WNT/beta-catenin signaling pathway, one of the primary regulatory systems governing osteoblast activity. Ursolic acid upregulated this pathway in bone cell cultures, producing measurable increases in osteoblast markers. Sage is also a meaningful source of vitamin K1, which supports osteocalcin carboxylation, the activation process that allows osteocalcin to bind calcium into bone matrix. Practically, fresh sage sautéed in olive oil over roasted vegetables, dried sage stirred into grain dishes, or sage tea brewed from fresh leaves. This is not supplementation. This is strategic seasoning. Item 5. Red clover, the clinical champion. Plant number 5. Red clover, the clinical champion. Red clover carries more clinical trial data on bone health than almost any other plant on this list, and yet it remains largely confined to naturopathic circles rather than mainstream nutritional guidance. The primary reason is political more than scientific. Its active compounds, isoflavones, mimic estrogen structurally, which created controversy that overshadowed the underlying research. Here is what the research actually shows when you read it directly. Red clover isoflavones, specifically formiminotin and bioquinin A, have been evaluated in multiple randomized controlled trials focused on postmenopausal bone loss, the period in which bone density typically declines fastest. A 2007 meta-analysis in Macharitas, drawing on 12 clinical trials, found significant reductions in the rate of lumbar spine bone mineral density loss in women supplementing with red clover isoflavones compared to placebo. These are not observational correlations. These are controlled interventions with measurable endpoints. The mechanism involves preferential binding to estrogen receptor beta in bone tissue, which downregulates osteoclast activity without the full systemic estrogenic effect that created earlier controversy. Red clover is available as a standardized extract. The clinical literature generally clusters around 40 to 80 milligrams of isoflavones daily as the studied dose range. Discuss this one specifically with your physician before starting. We are halfway through this list. 5 plants, 5 distinct biochemical mechanisms, none of which appear in the standard bone health pamphlet you've been handed. If this is filling in gaps your appointments never covered, hit the like button right now. That single action tells YouTube this information belongs in front of people who genuinely need it. Not algorithms deciding what is popular, people deciding what is useful. We still have 2 plants remaining, including one that costs almost nothing and has decades of clinical backing. And the final plant on this list is almost certainly sitting in your kitchen right now. Item 6, black sesame, the high-yield staple. Plant number 6, black sesame, the high-yield staple. Black sesame seeds are among the most calcium-dense foods available at any grocery store. Roughly 88 milligrams of calcium per tablespoon, in a form accompanied by natural sesame lignans that demonstrate measurable antioxidant activity in bone cell environments. A 2016 study published in Nutrition Research examined black sesame consumption in older adults over 6 months, documenting improvements in bone turnover markers, specifically a more favorable balance between bone formation and bone resorption indicators. The practical barrier here is essentially zero. Black sesame tahini spread on toast. Sesame seeds pressed into a stir-fry finish. A tablespoon ground and stirred into yogurt. The cost is low, the preparation is minimal, and the calcium density is legitimately competitive with dairy. For people who avoid dairy for any reason, lactose intolerance, personal preference, inflammatory concerns, black sesame closes a significant nutritional gap without requiring any dramatic dietary shift. Item 7, dandelion, the low-cost heavyweight. Plant number 7, dandelion, the low-cost heavyweight. The entire dandelion, root, stem, and leaf, is edible, nutritionally significant, and frequently treated as a lawn pest. The leaf in particular contains calcium, vitamin K, and boron, a trace mineral that plays a documented role in reducing urinary calcium excretion. Less calcium lost means more calcium retained for bone matrix. A review in Nutrients in 2020 consolidated evidence on boron's role in bone metabolism, noting its interaction with vitamin D activation and its role in maintaining magnesium levels, both indirectly essential to bone mineral density. Dandelion greens available at farmers markets or specialty grocery stores are the most convenient route. They are slightly bitter and pair well with olive oil and lemon as a simple dressed salad. Dandelion root tea is widely available and represents a low-friction daily habit. The cost is negligible. The biochemical contribution is not. Item 8, green tea, the nuanced truth. Plant number 8, green tea, the nuanced truth. Green tea appears on enough health lists that it risks becoming background noise. The bone-specific research, however, deserves a direct look rather than a passing mention. Green tea's primary active compounds, EGCG and other catechins, have demonstrated in both animal studies and human observational data the capacity to stimulate osteoblast proliferation while inhibiting osteoclast differentiation. The dual action is significant. Most pharmaceuticals and most nutrients work one side of the equation. Green tea catechins appear to work both. A large-scale epidemiological study published in Osteoporosis International in 2012, drawing on data from over 1,000 older women, found that habitual green tea drinkers showed meaningfully higher bone mineral density at the lumbar spine and hip compared to non-drinkers. The nuance: green tea contains compounds that can inhibit iron absorption. Drink it between meals rather than with them. 2 to 3 cups daily. The timing is the only adjustment required. Item 9, parsley, the subverted expectation. Plant number 9, parsley, the most nutritionally underestimated herb on every table. This is the one. The plant most people in this audience have encountered at nearly every meal for most of their lives, and sent directly to the side of the plate. Parsley delivers vitamin K1 in extraordinary concentration, roughly 547 micrograms per half cup of fresh leaves. That is more than 4 times the recommended daily intake, concentrated in a garnish most people discard without a second thought. Vitamin K1 is the precursor your body converts, in part, to vitamin K2, the form that activates osteocalcin and directs calcium specifically into bone tissue rather than allowing it to circulate freely. The mechanism matters. Without sufficient K2 activity, calcium absorbed from food and supplements has no reliable directive to reach bone. Parsley. In salads, blended into dressings, folded into grain bowls. Not a garnish. An active participant. That changes today. The question nearly everyone reaches at this point is the same. How do I actually use all of this without overhauling my entire life? The honest answer is that you do not need all 9 every day. What you need is consistent rotation built around a simple framework. Start with 2 anchor habits. Moringa or black sesame in 1 daily meal, smoothie, broth, or yogurt. Parsley in 1 daily meal. This requires almost no effort. Those 2 alone cover a meaningful range of the mechanisms discussed. Add 1 tea. Horsetail, dandelion root, or green tea 2 to 3 times weekly. Rotate between them. Each covers a different pathway. Use sage and nettle as culinary herbs rather than supplements. Cook with them. Include them the way you already include other herbs, as seasoning, not medicine. For red clover specifically, given its stronger hormonal relevance, speak with your physician before adding it. Bring the Macharida's meta-analysis data to the conversation. Arrive informed. That is the point. This is not an intensive protocol. It is a rotation, a broadening of the nutritional picture your bone tissue is working with. Sustainable, gradual, cumulative. Those are the only bone health interventions that actually hold. One final thing before you go, and it matters. Nothing in this video constitutes medical advice. Not one item on this list is a replacement for your physician's guidance, your bone density scans, your prescribed medications, or your structured exercise plan. What these plants represent is nutritional intelligence, peer-reviewed, biochemically grounded, and completely compatible with whatever medical protocol you are currently following. Bring this to your next appointment. Ask about osteocalcin. Ask about K2 and calcium direction. Ask whether any of these botanical compounds might interact with medications you're already taking. The best health outcome you can have is a conversation where both you and your doctor are fully informed. That is what this channel exists to create. People who walk into medical conversations equipped, not overwhelmed. If there is a topic you want us to go deeper on, bone health, cardiovascular function, cognitive aging, anything, put it in the comments right now. We read them. They shape what we build next. If this changed how you're going to approach your garden, subscribe. We're building toward 1,000, and this is exactly the kind of video that gets made when that number grows. Next week we're going deeper. Something most people have never questioned, and probably should have. I'll see you there.